Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cast Track. We post an interview with an amazing Canadian each weekday for your daily inspiration. Today, I would like to introduce you to my dear friend, Mary Moran. Mary was born in Aurora, Ontario, and has been with her sweetheart for 24 years. Mary tells me that her greatest passion is Calgary, of course. No kidding. She also loves sports and loves skiing, running, and figure skating. In fact, she still competes and loves that too. Friends, you'll find her full bio attached. Enjoy. Mary, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. May we start with the questions that I sent you this week?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay, so first one. This is always the toughest one. What has been your greatest challenge in the last 2 months?
Other than the fridge being too close to me, I would say a couple of things, really. I think I think I'm getting to the stage where I'm zoomed out. And, I like the face-to-face interaction. 80% of communication is nonverbal. And sometimes it's hard, even though you have video, it's often delayed or people aren't on the video part of it. And so, I would just say for me personally, it's been sitting in front of a computer, looking into a screen and not being able to read the nonverbal cues and really picking up on that kind of thing. So, but you know what? And I'm in the comfort of my home, and so I don't have much to complain about really, except for the whole world needs help right now.
Yeah, you're so right. It sure does. And it's so true. I'm with you. I'm zoomed out too. I'd much rather be in person and hugging.
Yes, I'm a hugger.
I know you are. And what are the three things that you'd like to share with the audience today?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things. Obviously, I'm very passionate about Calgary, as mentioned previously, and that's a core part. That is the core part of our job. And I think for Calgary, we've had a very rough road and a long and winding road, and every time it feels like we're turning the corner and making some great advances, there's another curve in the road, and it's an uphill climb. And so COVID is no different. And I would say COVID, a lot of people are hurting from COVID, but in Calgary and Alberta in particular, our road just got longer than it was, and we already had a very complex problem. And so if I look at the kind of key indicators for Calgary with respect to very highly talented, young, educated workforce sitting on the sidelines, I find that heartbreaking. But in addition to that is that we know that even if we get to the state where the energy industry is optimized through the good work that the government of Alberta is doing, that we still have 14 million square feet of empty office space. And in fact, we have the highest concentration of office space in the country, in North America, in fact, by a long shot on a per capita basis. So we have double Toronto, we have triple places like Houston, Pittsburgh, Denver, 4 times as much as places like Detroit. And so we have enough office space to support a population of 4 million people. So it's really important that we take a long-term view of what our opportunities are. And, I think that we have to be committed to it. We have to be aligned. There has to be trust between all orders of government. And frankly, we need a Team Canada approach to solving the economic challenges for Calgary. So, I would just say people shouldn't give up on it. It's still a grand city, and the people make a big difference. We have, in spite of all our challenges, there's still community spirit here that, although it might be dampened a little bit, it's still really in our DNA, and it will be our path out of here because we are entrepreneurial. But I'd love to see more focus and alignment with respect to what the vision is for Calgary.
Love it.
Yeah, and I think the unfortunate part is that, if you look at the energy industry or the things that we excel at, energy, agriculture, transportation, logistics, aerospace, and increasingly so life sciences, things like fintech, things like creative industries, and of course tourism there. If you look at those industries and the technologies that are coming towards those industries, we have a huge opportunity to be the center for digital transformation in the things we excel at, particularly energy, agriculture, and transportation, because we have the head offices here, we have the data here, we have a science and math-based population. And although we need some upskilling or some new skills coming into the market with respect to software engineer, data scientists, coders, programmers, there's a real opportunity for us to marry traditional engineering with kind of new economy engineering. And it's a brass ring there waiting to happen. You know, we did the research that said $18.5 billion of investment in digital technologies across Alberta, which most of those decisions will be made in the headquarter center of Calgary. Mm-hmm. And that means we're going to need, you know, more than double the number of software engineer, data scientists, coders, and programmers. And so we have to change the narrative, and we should be positioning Calgary as the place the world's best entrepreneurs come to, and that they can come here and embrace these advanced technologies and solve problems for the world. Things that are, you know, cleaner energy, safer and secure food, the more efficient movement of goods and people, and increasingly so better health solutions. And if you think of what COVID did, it shone a spotlight on two things. One, the need for digitization across all industries. I always say tech isn't a sector anymore, it's a way of doing business. But more importantly, you think of all the things that were threatened. Our health system and the need and speed of which to deliver it was threatened. Food and supply chain was threatened and stressed. Energy, we had to really think about, we have to think about if we're going to be hovering around $30 oil or low oil prices, we've got to get costs out. And the best way to do that is technology, because in a time of volatility and uncertainty and ambiguity, which we have with a pipeline or carbon tax or regulatory process, the only thing you can invest in that will guarantee an ROI is going to be technology. Mm-hmm. And it will make you more competitive, more productive, and more predictive. And so we can change the narrative, build on the strength of what we're good at and what we excel at, because the application of digital technologies across our industries is profound.
Yeah. Agreed. May I ask a question if plastics is on the scene at all? Do you see what's happening in that space?
With respect to plastics?
Yeah, is there anything going on here?
Well, are you meaning with petrochemicals? Is that what you mean? Yeah. Or yeah. I mean, there's obviously lots going on in the province with respect to this, and you know, that is part of the diversification strategy. You know, the energy industry, you know, I would just like to back it up actually and just talk about, you know, the positioning of the energy industry, because I'm a big believer that, that we have to talk about the energy industry a little bit differently, because we slipped into consumer marketing, and consumer marketing and the societal pressures that the energy industry has succumbed to over the last decade or so is really, you know, quite challenging, right? And it's hard to get ahead of it. And in fact, when you're on your back leg defending it, it's not necessarily a great state to be in. But if you look at Alberta and Calgary, we have an abundance of fossil fuels, wind, solar, things like geothermal are becoming much more apparent, hydrogen, and you look at what the world needs, like, and I actually think we have and should stand up and yell from the rooftops that we have global solutions to climate action, right? And so whether you're climate change denier or not, we know we have to do things better, and we're the best in the world with respect to fossil fuels. So, you know, we have the highest ESG standards, but we also are blessed with an abundance of wind, solar, geothermal, and increasingly so hydrogen, right? And so there's an opportunity for us to change that narrative. You know, with respect to plastics, there's lots of technologies going on about use of carbon for other things. And so, but you know, there's a lot of social pushback when it comes to plastics, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have to be acutely aware of that. You know, the good news about Alberta is we're full of solution-oriented people. Agreed.
What about it? One other question is totally offline, but more around brain and mental health. Obviously, there's lots of talk right now that mental health is going to be the new pandemic, and of course, you and I both know we're well networked in town. We know that this is an issue. So, do you think that Calgary could be the hub for brain health as well? I've got some cool brain scientists in my circle. Do you think that could be something that we could look at in the future?
Oh, absolutely. I think and when we talk about better health solutions, it definitely includes mental health. And if you look at the strength, particularly at the University of Calgary, one of their key pillars is mental health, right? And obviously some overly generous philanthropic contributions to the mental health institutes at the University of Calgary. So I think there's like world-class research being done across life sciences, mental health being one of them, but also in other types of health solutions. And so, but you know, I think first of all, everybody has a responsibility as an employer and an employee to make sure that they're taking care of their mental health. But I do agree that there's really interesting research being done here that will help us position ourselves as more of a mental health and under that life science umbrella, right? So huge opportunity. And that's, we would call that an emerging opportunity.
Awesome.
With respect to, yeah.
Good. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for that. I'm sorry for the questions that were offline. I just,
don't you worry.
This stuff.
Don't you worry about it.
Thank you. And then the final one was, do you have a good news or legacy story that you want to share with everyone?
You know, I would just say from a legacy perspective, if there was a legacy for me personally, I would really like to be sitting in the nursing home and somebody say that Calgary Economic Development contributed to the strengthening of the innovation ecosystem. And part of it is, and that's not just about me, it's about a very passionate team that happens to be at Calgary Economic Development. But, you know, I think that, you know, we know that we're innovators here in Calgary. The rest of the country doesn't. And it's a shame because I think we've been embracing innovation for a very, very long time. You know, we figured out how to go 5 kilometers down, 3 kilometers across, hit a bathtub-sized target, and get really tough or difficult product out of very difficult geology. And to me, you put 4 engineers in a room in Calgary and you find solutions for sure. So, but that all said is there are some weaknesses in the innovation ecosystem, particularly as it pertains to advanced technology, right? So part of it's talent, part of it's raising the capital or patient capital investment, and part of it's just infrastructure and ecosystem building. And so there's still a lot of work for us to do in that area, because people don't think of Calgary as a tech or innovation ecosystem. In fact, we monitor perceptions across the country all the time, and in fact it's been deteriorating, not improving over the last several years, because the only narrative they're hearing out there right now is around oil and gas. And although we should be very proud of our strength and our heritage and our past, that we still have to talk about a lot of other things. And I think about the companies that get overshadowed, right? So, you know, Solium got bought by Morgan Stanley for $1 billion last year. Parvis did a joint venture with a biopharmaceutical company for $1 billion last year. You know, we've got great homegrown stories like in transportation, like WestJet and Trimac. We have ATB that's so progressive in fintech. We've got companies like Benevity. We've got Simons. We've got who just raised $50 million, which is the largest Series B raised in Alberta in its history, right? You know, so there's so many great stories, and it's in an interesting position that we get to sit at Calgary Economic Development, because we oscillate between being super happy and super sad all day long, because we see the forefront of all these great stories that are going on and the really cool things that people are doing, and even some people just pivoting completely and or building on what they know about the energy industry and trying to find solutions around this digital transformation. And so, you know, there are so many success stories pre-COVID, during COVID, and I know there's going to be a lot more post-COVID. So, but I really, you know, if I had one wish, it would just be to have politicians aligned and everybody talking about Calgary as an innovation center, because there is the one ingredient that will get us through is the talent and the people that are here, and there are some super, super smart people here.
I agree. Thank you, Mary. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Everybody, Mary Moran, a lover of Calgary and Alberta. Now we know why we love her. Thank you again, and thanks again for joining us for Cat's Track today. I look forward to the next one. Take care.